Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and oh, am I excited to preview some New York Jets regular season football. Before we get started, just wanted to mention you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY, and if you haven't already, please make sure to check out the Just Jets podcast. Episodes are dropping Wednesdays now, so make sure to get those voicemails in beforehand so I could then talk about last week's game and then get into the upcoming game, all that fun stuff. Okay, so neither of these teams in 2020 were really all that productive. They were kind of in, well, the Jets went full out tank mode. The Panthers were in year one of Matt Rule and Joe Brady, and there were ups and downs, but they have a new quarterback, and so do the New York Jets, and more on that in a little bit here. But looking at the 2020 version of both of these teams, the Jets offense were dead last in football, by far the worst with Sam Darnold and Adam Gase at the helm. As for the Panthers, 24th, which is pretty good considering that Teddy Bridgewater was their quarterback for almost the entirety of the year, and they were without their best offensive player in Christian McCaffrey. As for the defense, the Jets, man, they did not play very well on the defensive side of the ball either. That's what happens when you're 2-14. 26th overall, Panthers 18th from last year, and their defense clearly a little bit ahead of their offense, but neither of these teams were in the top half of football in either offensive or defensive categories. Now, the biggest storyline from this game, and thank you to the schedule makers for the drama in week one, Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson going up against it. So, as we all know, Sam Darnold was drafted by the New York Jets 3rd overall in 2018. After 3 years, they moved on from him, and the reason for that was because of an abysmal 2020 season. Going into last year, I think the majority of people thought, okay, let's look at Sam maybe taking another step forward, get Adam Gase the hell out of here, let's get a real coach in here. But with how poorly Sam Darnold played, they could not possibly go into this year with him again because of a few reasons. We could get into it again briefly, and then that's not what this episode's about, but just with the contract situation and with the 2nd overall pick and this quarterback class sitting in your lap, it just didn't make sense, which is why the Jets went with Zach Wilson out of BYU, who really came on strong last year, seemingly came out of nowhere, and had this phenomenal season, and now we're in this position where it is like seeing your ex for the first time. It's going to be a little bit awkward. It's going to be different rooting against Sam Darnold instead of for Sam Darnold. And while I respect Sam and he was a good soldier throughout the process, and I feel awful for what the Jets put him through, it's time to move on. He does whatever he'll do in Carolina, and it's time to focus on Zach Wilson, who had himself a really good preseason. I know it's been a while. The Jets haven't played in over a week because they had a week off after their last preseason game, and Zach Wilson didn't play in the last preseason game. So it's been a little bit since we've seen him live in game situations, but it'll just be good to see how he settles in, and more on that in a little bit here too. One of the big matchups from this game I'm looking at is the Jets defensive line versus the Panthers offensive line. The Jets D-line, even without Carl Lawson, even without Vinny Curry, is their deepest unit on the team by far. Quinnen Williams, Folu Fatukasi, John Franklin Myers, Sheldon Rankins, they're going to be able to get after the quarterback. That's without question. They brought in Shaq Lawson, who to me is more of a Vinny Curry replacement than a Carl Lawson replacement, despite sharing the same last name. Moral of the story here is, yes, it's awful that Carl Lawson is out for the year. I am so upset that I don't get to see him, but still, the Jets D-line is going to be a strength on this team, and you look at the Panthers offensive line, it's one of their biggest weaknesses. Dennis Daly is getting the start at right guard due to COVID keeping out their regular starter. He was a 2019 6th round pick, doesn't have a ton of experience under his belt. Pat Elflein, remember him? The Jets traded for him. He played left guard for this team last year after the whole Alex Lewis situation. He wasn't very good. He had a 48 overall PFF grade last year, ranked 73rd out of 81 qualifying guards, and their left tackle, Cam Irving, 58 PFF grade last year, was under 50 the previous 5 years. Talk about a first-round bust in Irving. So their left side specifically does not look very good. Outside of right tackle and center, it's a bit of an issue. I like Paradis as center. I think he's solid at right tackle. You're going to have steady play there. Don't have to worry about that if you're the Panthers, but Quinnen Williams, I think, is going to have a field day up the gut. So that is definitely one of the matchups that you should keep an eye on and something that goes in the Jets' favor. Now, flipping it back to the Jets for a second here, when you look at rookie quarterbacks in their first starts, at least in recent memory, so you have Sam Darnold in 2018 making his first start. Started off rocky, but he came on extremely strong and led an impressive win over the Detroit Lions on the road. Then you had Geno Smith, who won at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2013. And then if you go back to 2009, you had Mark Sanchez on the road against the Houston Texans. All three of those quarterbacks played and looked pretty good in their first three starts. So maybe fourth time's the charm again with Zach Wilson, and he plays well, and the Jets win that game, making it 4 in a row. That would be pretty nice. I think all Jet fans would sign up for that. Now, this year, the Panthers are getting Christian McCaffrey back, which is going to be huge because the last time he played a full season in 2019, he was an 1,000-yard rusher and had 1,000 receiving yards as well. He is one of, if not, I would say he's the best dual threat back in terms of running and receiving. Maybe Alvin Kamara's right there, but McCaffrey to me is far and away the best one. And it's going to be very, very difficult on guys like Nasruddin and Sherwood, who are late round picks for the New York Jets, who are changing positions from safety to linebacker to keep up with McCaffrey. Now, I will say this, them being safeties, I think is going to help. Obviously, the two of them are going to be playing linebacker on this Jets team a lot with CJ Mosley in the mix, but they're going to be asked to cover McCaffrey out of the backfield. I think their speed is going to play into their favor. Now, it's not going to be perfect because you're going up against the best receiving running back in football, but I think they have a shot versus what some of the other linebacking cores in recent Jets memory has looked like. I mean, they outside of CJ Mosley week 1 in 2019, they haven't gotten very good play in coverage from their linebackers in a long time. So hopefully there's some upside there. Something to note on the Jets side, Ulbrich is saying that they could do a cornerback by committee. That's sketchy. It's really sketchy, the Jets corner situation. I like Bryce Hall, don't get me wrong, but outside of that, ton of question marks. Javelin Guidry will play in the slot. On the other side, maybe Eccles, Pinnock, Isaiah Dunn. All three of those guys are very late rookies. Isaiah Dunn is an undrafted free agent, actually, and Pinnock and Eccles were drafted, well, late in this most recent draft. So you're asking a lot for those guys to start and play and cover NFL quality receivers. And you have to give credit to the Panthers. They have good receivers. Robbie Anderson, Moore, Terrence Marshall they just drafted. So, yeah, I like that the Jets will more than likely be able to get pressure in Sam Darnold's face. But if they don't, like if Sam has time, you got to watch Robbie Anderson on the deep ball. Now, I know that Sam isn't someone who gets the ball down the field a ton, but we did see with the Jets, he had a connection with Robbie. He liked to go to Robbie Anderson. And if you're going up against the inexperienced cornerback group, you're going to take some shots. So if the pass rush isn't getting home, that's definitely something that you have to keep an eye on. Last thing before I get into the picks is my prediction for Zach Wilson. In his first game, I think he is going to be productive. I don't think they're going to ask him to do too much, but I'll say he goes 19 of 30. So 30 passing attempts for Wilson in his rookie debut, which is 63.3%. We'll call it 216 yards, which is a YPA a little over 7. I believe it's 7.2. 2 passing touchdowns, no interceptions. I think he comes in and plays well right away against a defense that wasn't phenomenal last year, and their secondary is definitely in question. I think that the pass rush wise, they should be okay. The Jets offensive line, though, is getting AVT back, which is huge. So I think they'll do a good job of keeping him upright. And when he has been upright through the entirety of the preseason, he's put up numbers. So I think we see 2 passing touchdowns, just over 200 yards, and a completion percentage around 63 in that range. So my pick for this game, I am taking the Jets plus 5.5 or 5, or I've even seen it move to 4. Whatever the number is, I'm taking it because I'm also taking the Jets straight up. I think they win this game. I'm going to predict a 23-17 score. I don't think it's going to be a super high scoring game, but I do think both of these teams will put in a couple of touchdowns. The Jets have a win under Robert Saleh's first game. Like, how does he call a game? How does Mike LaFleur call a game? This is a huge storyline, but I think the Jets have enough with the pass rush, and I think they will do enough on offense to end up winning this game. It's not going to be an easy one. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout, but I do think the Jets absolutely can win this game. And we are going to use Casey again, our favorite picking dog, and she this year is going with me against the spread. So that'll be our fun, is picking against the spread. Let's see who she likes. Casey is also on the Jets against the spread. So there you go. Both of us on the Jets. We'll call it +5. That's going to do it for me on this video in the preview. Make sure to get your comments in. Tell me what you think of the game and all that fun stuff. That's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time.